What's up, YouTube and Predator Hunting Ground players? My name is Marth. I've been a theory crafter for the game Dead by Daylight for a long time. I've decided to kind of take some time to theory craft for this game to help the community out. This is not a balancing video. This isn't anything like that. This is just mostly talking about some things to help the community from the fire team aspect as well as the Predator side. What this video is going to show is I've got two documents that I'll put in the description below that you guys can reference to at any time. One's going to be a document with all the maps and their spawns that are best for the fire teams, as well as Predator damage overall, base with no buffs for every weapon in the game. That way you have the understanding of what damage you're doing and what you need to do to kill survivors in terms of how much health they can have, how much damage you do, so you can kind of figure out what combos are good to use. I figured out a couple of secret combos that I'm going to probably showcase in one of my streams later or in a guide later, which I have a feeling will probably get nerfed by IllFonic. But in terms that they do need to kind of give the Predator a little bit of love later on down the road. But if you can get it to work in a real game scenario, someone's dying in 2 seconds. And there's nothing they can do to stop it. But ultimately, we'll see how things go. And I'll go over the video with you guys, and I'll kind of talk about the combo a little bit. Maybe at the end of the video to kind of put it into perspective. I don't have any clips of it. I was testing it offline to see if it actually worked. It did. But the question is it going to be a real life scenario? Possibly. But without further ado, let's go ahead and show you the map documentation that I have here for you guys. So what I ended up doing is I spent hours, probably 6-7 hours, because of the way the game is designed. You have 3 different maps that you can have, but out of those 3 maps, you have different missions that you can have. So trying to go through the RNG element of trying to make sure I did get every mission, I went through and did a private match by myself and kept resetting it and resetting it and resetting it and resetting it. I believe I've gotten all of the maps missions. If I do miss one, please do let me know. That way I can get the RNG element, and try to get that mission, so that way I can go ahead and get it added to the list. But ultimately I've gone through, there's 3 different maps and they're all in ABC order. You've got the backwater missions, the derailed missions, and the overgrowth missions. And each one of the missions, when you look it up here, so backwater boat tracking, closest spawn is Fishing Village to get to where you need to go. Now, the thing with backwater missions is, which I'm going to go ahead and pull up the image here real quick so I can show you. Just as an example here, I kind of took pictures of this so that way, later on, because I may do a detailed guide explaining, hey, spawn here, your first objectives here, second objectives up here, so on and so forth. Even though you really don't need it because you get waypoints, but it might help Predators understand if you see the survivors here and you do see them move out, there's a quite possibility they're on this mission, and you may be able to give you a little bit of knowledge as the Predator to kind of help you hunt your prey. But here on Backwater, this is the only map that has really bad spawns for some of the missions. Every other map has a guaranteed spawn, which is the best. Some of the Backwater missions will have it to where this is the first objective up here on the top left-hand corner. So in theory, either one of these are about the equal distance from this location, but in overall, throughout the guide, I chose this one as the starting station. For the main reason is because you can easily mud up here and make a beeline while avoiding the major town. So ultimately what would end up happening is if the Predator, like say for example you spawn here and the Predator spawns here, the Predator may come up this way wanting to cut you off and it's easier to find you. Whereas you spawn here and he spawns here, he has to make the choice. Are they going to the Fishing Village? Are they coming here? Are they going there? It just gives you a little bit of a safer path because there's less things down this road that you're going to be able to be seen easily. So if you stay mudded up and quiet, because you're not going to need to really be shooting your guns because you're traveling through the jungle. So overall, it's a little bit of the more safer route, even though they're still the equal distance away no matter which one you go to. But overall, It's just the more safer route. So that's why I ended up choosing that for the backwater. But every other one, like Derailed or Overgrowth missions, they all have a clear cut which one's the closest. There is no if this one or this one. Each one does have a what is the closest. On Overgrowth especially, Fractured Bloodline, I believe this is the one. Like literally spawning here at Waterfall puts you within 100 meters of your first objective. You can literally be there in less than like 20 seconds if you rush immediately to this guy. And it's like, so ultimately it's like there's some very clear cut what are the best spawns. But that's kind of what I did for you guys. If I did miss anything, please let me know so I can get this updated. Pass it around with your friends. I know you guys are out there fire teaming it up, playing with your friends. That way you guys, hey, you know what? Gives you an advantage so you know what you're doing. Because out of all the missions, there's like 12 for Backwater. I think I counted 10 for Derailed and 11 for, oh, no, excuse me, 12 for Overgrowth, 10 for Derailed, and I think it's 11. Yeah, 11 for Backwater. That's 30 missions. That's 33 missions. Granted, some people do have good memories to understand exactly, you know, every time. But this way, you know, you're not accidentally, oh my gosh, I just spawned 400 meters away from the objective. Damn it, I know I should have gone the other way. Well, at least this will allow you to be able to kind of have, you know, that little bit of an advantage so you guys are starting off on a good foot as the fire team. Now, that is the spawns. The detailed guide may come later depending on the support from you guys. But honestly, with the Predator not knowing what mission particularly someone's on, it really does, the detailed guide really won't help the Predators like I thought it would. I was like, oh wow, that could actually be knowledgeable if I knew exactly, hey, they're on this mission. I knew they're going here, then they have to go here, and they have to go here. So if I lose my biomask, I can still know where they've got to go. The problem is we don't know as the Predator. There's 100% no information at all for us as the Predator, other than the fact just having to track them as the prey. So ultimately, the detailed guide, I'm still debating if I do it or not do it. But overall, that just kind of helps you guys out as a fire team to understand, hey, this is what we need to do and what we not need to do and where do we go. So ultimately, next, we're going to talk about the Predator damage base values. Okay, so a little information for IllFonic. I don't hope one of the devs are watching this or listen to this. Ultimately, we started testing this out against the support, and I accidentally, when I had one of my friends that was an assault that was helping me test, the values started changing, and I found out for some reason after we figured it out. At first I thought it was the support that was bugged, but it's actually the assault. For whatever reason, out of the 4 classes, the assault actually takes a percentage increase of damage. So I don't think that's intended because I didn't see anything in the tooltip for the assault. But if I was you as a survivor, I would not play the assault class for now until they fix that bug, because depending on which one, I didn't go through and test exactly how much percentage everything is for every weapon. That I'll leave that to IllFonic because I'm not paid by them, so I'm going to leave that to them to figure it out. Ultimately, you act like, for example, the wrist blades, even though base melee, no fearless, no berserker, no nothing, it does 30 damage base, but to an assault it was doing 36 damage. And then of course I would like shoot them with the bow, so that's a 20% increase, but the bow would only be like a 10% increase. So, and the plasma caster did nothing extra. So it's like there's something probably in the net code for the assault or something that's just completely throwing off how much damage intake that they get. So I would just recommend not playing the assault class for now until they fix that damage, because that can be make or break depending on, you know, a lot of different factors. But we're going to go ahead and go over Predator base values now. Like I said, we're going to go over melee first, then range. Wrist blades, 30 damage per swing no matter what. It does not combo. There's no extra damage after the combo. It's just 30 per damage. The next melee weapon you unlock is the Elder Blade. This by itself is, this one's a little, it's kind of hard to explain, so I'm going to explain it. So usually when you M1 with a weapon, you only hit once. With the Elder Blade, your first M1 swings and then swings again immediately after the first M1. So if both of those connect in that first initial M1, it does a total of 58 damage. And then the final hit, because it's a combo, so M1, you go 1, 2, and then uppercut with the sword for the third hit. Well, the third hit, but technically your second M1. So in total, that will do about 107 damage with no buffs. So that's actually a decent amount, but the thing is with the Elder Blade, it is kind of slow. It's not the worst of the weapons, but it's ultimately, it does do decent damage, but it's just, it doesn't do any AoE and the range is kind of low. So it's what kind of holds it back from like the combi stick, which of course is the #1 weapon, and you'll understand why I say that later in the video. You've got the War Club, decent, but horrible. I would stay away from the War Club if I was you guys. First hit, I actually boofed that up. I'm going to change that. That should be 24 for the first hit, 28 for the second hit, and then you do one super uppercut for 72 in the end. The chances of hitting all that is going to be rare, but if you can, it does a good amount of damage. But War Club hits very slow and takes a lot of stamina. So ultimately, that's the War Club damage. Ultimately, if I was you, I would either do net gun with wrist blades, of course, because you can automatically hit, or bring the combi stick, which the combi stick is huge. And I'll explain why right now, because the combi stick doubles up as both a melee weapon and a range weapon. I will cover the range damage later. But for now, the combi stick, its melee combo is 30, 40, and then it does a 2-hit spin at the end for each one of those hits for 30, so a total of 60 for the final spin at the end of the combo. So that will do that'll be about 130 damage. So overall, it's better out of all of the weapons in terms of overall damage. It's got AoE effect, and it's got range. So it kind of makes it a little bit easier to hit your targets with the combi stick. It's better to hit register, so it feels more fluent, because it gives you like a little slight lunge. And then of course the smart disc. Smart disc does a lot of damage from range, melee. Just don't try to melee with the smart disc. Just don't do it. But ultimately, that's the melee weapons in the game. Now for rage. Okay. These, when I go for the plasma caster, this is for direct shots. So I'm not talking about splash effects, because there's a lot of different reasons why, that's way too much to go into effect. But if you're able to get a direct shot onto somebody with a quick shot of the plasma caster, it does 53 damage. If you're able to do a full charge, and what I mean by full charge is you're holding the M1, the charge button, and you hold it down until it goes beep, 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 and it automatically lets it go, it'll be death to almost anybody. I think support with running ALF, OWLF, and thick skin can survive it. But ultimately, no one will run that on support. But it's pretty much, if you get a direct shot with this thing, I have not seen someone who has survived it with a direct shot. Again, there could be someone that does, and I'm just messed it up. But pretty much, if you can get that thing full charged and a direct shot onto somebody, they're done. Even like a centimeter away at the foot sometimes can kill them too. But anything in between, of course, if you like half charge it, might be like 70, 80 damage, stuff like that. This is the superior range gun. No matter what it is, the bows, the smart disc, everything. This is just so much more mobile. This is so much more easier to use. There's a lot of tricks to using this. A lot of the things I've been doing with the plasma caster is the peek shots, where I'll sit there right in front of a wall. I'll start charging it up, and then I'll peek out the last second and then let it fly. Again, you got to remember, the biggest thing is with this plasma caster, it sits on your left shoulder. So I've had many times where I don't peek out far enough and I just hit the wall right in front of me. So ultimately, that's kind of keep in mind, even though it looks like you're aiming right at the person, but the shot's coming from your left. So you got to make sure that you're clear from that wall so it can go. And leaves and branches and little rocks can all stop the plasma caster. So if you use it, you've got to make sure you're in the clear, because little leaves from a tree can block it. So don't think it's just going to get vaporized, because it doesn't. Net gun overall doesn't do too much damage. This thing can be utility wise. I've used it in many good situations. Let's say for example you're in a very very high spot and you shoot down at a target that's on the ground. If you can hit them, it'll pin them down to the ground. Overall, they can spam F and get out of it pretty quickly, but at least it gives, it does CC them so you can maybe get on top of them. Because I've done it many times where I'll stun somebody with it and I kill them, and they can't respond fast enough to do anything to save themselves. But the net gun by itself, just to give you an idea, it does 1 initial damage on the hit. So as soon as you hit them with it, doesn't matter if they're running, doesn't matter if they get pinned, one damage initial on the first hit. And then it does 2 per, I believe I counted it per second, but pretty much 2 damage per tick, which seemed like it was at a 1 second interval. So overall you may get about, if depending on how fast they spam, maybe 10 to 20 damage from it, but it's still a decent amount because you can close the gap and start meleeing on them and get them down. The handheld plasma caster, I thought this would be a lot better than, a good gun. It's weak as heck. Honestly, the plasma caster and the bow, I honestly will never use these. The plasma caster itself is like a little sawed-off shotgun. Is the best way to explain it. When you shoot it, it's got 3 pellets that come out of the shot, and you'll see them like little blue dots as they come out. Each one of those pellets does 10 per hit. So pretty much what it is, if you can hit with all 3 of this, if you can hit with the full scatter shot of all 3, it does a total of 30 damage in general. You've got 6 shots in the plasma caster handheld, and it's infinite reloads, but ultimately it's as close as you've got to get to use that to be effective. It's not worth running it. You might as well just stay at far range and do quick shots with your big plasma caster. It does more damage. You can just do pew and run, pew and run, and you can hit from far. So ultimately, the plasma caster, the handheld, not so much. Okay, the Predator bow. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce it. But the bow itself, if you quick shot into the body, it does 53. So this is the exact same thing as the plasma caster itself. Where it suffers is its max potential. Full charge to the body only does 70 damage. Not much of a difference between a quick shot and a full shot. So if you're not confident with hitting those headshots, it's better just to pelt with it than it is to try to sit there and you're gonna charge it up a little bit so you can get the aim down, but that's about it. For the headshots though, if you're able to land a quick shot, so just where you just tap and let it go, it's 93. So it does 93 damage if you can quick shot into the head, and only 122 if you hit it with a full charge. So in theory, the lowest amount of health is 125. So at full charge, this won't even kill a scout or a recon. With downrange, you would. But in all honesty, but that won't kill like the assault and the support, whereas the plasma caster could. Now, we're gonna leave this combi stick alone for a second, and we'll come back to this because I'm gonna kind of explain something to you why combi stick is just superior to every other weapon in the game, and I'll explain why here in a second. Okay, so smart disc. Doesn't matter if you fast speed it. Doesn't matter if you hit them in the head. Doesn't matter if you hit them in the foot. If you let it go slow, you let it go fast. It doesn't matter. No matter where you hit with the smart disc, it's 125 damage. Straight. No matter what. It pierces through targets. You can call it back. It's 125 damage straight up. With downrange, of course, that'll go up. So you can actually one-shot a scout or a recon if they don't have extra health. But overall, 125 damage. I personally don't like how slow it is and how wonky it is to fly the son of a gun. But if you're good enough in hitting with it, it's 125 damage, but you do leave yourself susceptible to being spotted. Where they can still shoot and pelt at you, so you're going to have to kind of use it from a weird cover, have to go retrieve it and stuff like that. Now, there's 3 different things that can affect all this damage up here. Okay, there's 2 perks and the Berserker itself. So, Fearless is 10% increase to melee damage, which is a perk. So any melee weapon does 10% extra damage when you hit. So for example, it goes from 30 to 33. Now, downrange, you would think it would be 10%. I didn't go through and I didn't figure out the exact percentages. I think this may be another bug. I'll kind of go in more detail with this and kind of explain why, how it's pretty much a bug. But ultimately, what's going on is it's a flat 10% increase. So, like when I did the smart disc to the head, like with the body, where's that at here? Okay, so downrange with the flying disc, it was a straight 10%. So it did 137 damage with downrange equipped. But with the combi stick, which I'll go through in a little bit, it was a lot bigger. Because base is 97 for the combi stick throw for the body hit, and with downrange it did 126. So you math gurus out there can tell that's definitely not 10% increase. So again, the perk itself could be bugged. It could just be the interaction with combi stick. I don't know. It's not 100. It's not 10% for everything, but so I just left it there as reference for them to kind of look at it and figure it out. Maybe it's a bug and they need to fix it, but ultimately downrange is about roughly 10 to 20% based on which weapon you're using. It does affect the casters, it does affect the combi stick throw and the smart disc. But for whatever reason, it affects them all differently. So just figure 10% for safety and then enjoy the extra damage and you get it. Because I wouldn't rely on it because I figure that'll be fixed in the future. And then with Berserker, it's a 10%. So it's like Fearless. So Berserker is like Fearless. It's a 10% to melee damage. Now, I did a test because each game does different things when it comes to percentages. If you have Berserker and Fearless equipped, it is a 20% damage increase to melee. So this will go from 30 to 36. So it's an added, I don't know if it's considered multiplicative or additive, but ultimately it'll actually make it to where it'll take 10% plus 10%, which will turn it to 20%, then it does the calculation for melee hits. So it's a 20% if you've got both of these equipped. Now, I did some playing around and testing because I wanted to see how things worked and why I'm confused with how these percentages and why I didn't include the percentages or the damages with the weapons, with the perks and stuff like that. I did a test with one of my friends being support with thick skin. Thick skin increases your overall health. So it took and put a support in at 190 health. Let me just kind of give you a little scenario here. The combi stick throw does 97 base and 117 to head. If you're playing Berserker by himself, because Fearless and Berserker don't stack with a combi stick throw. This is why I'm confused by the math. If you're either playing a killer Berserker or playing another Predator with Fearless on, body shots do 115 damage, and the headshots do 138 damage. So that right there will one-shot a recon and a scout immediately. That they're done if you can hit them in the headshot. And if you don't, and if you go for the careful play, throw the combi stick and then hit them once with your wrist blades. They're done. Or you can go in and hit with the combi stick once and then throw the combi stick at them as they're running away from you. Ultimately, it does a lot of damage. Again, I don't understand how that works because I'm guessing because it's considered a melee weapon, and yet somehow, even though you're throwing it, it still gets the power. Don't know, but that's where that goes. And this is the one that scares me, and this is the combo that really scares me a lot if you can get it to work in a real life scenario. If you play Berserker with downrange, or any of the other Predators with downrange, because Berserker and downrange don't stack together, it'll just take the downrange percentage for this. With the combi stick throw, with downrange equipped, body shot 126 damage. Goodbye recons and scouts if they don't have damage reduction or health boost. A headshot does 151 damage. Goodbye assaults and below if they don't have health increase or damage reduction. Now, I don't know how that math adds up. I don't understand how it does. Something's not right there with the math. But I did a quick test just to see what would happen in a real life scenario. As a predator, if they're in a building that only has one exit, you can literally throw a bear trap near the door. So as soon as they come out the door, they're immediately trapped. You throw the combi stick anywhere to hit them. So you just, like, say for example, you're crouched on top of the building waiting for them to come out the building. They come out, boom, hit the bear trap. Throw the stick, one wrist blades, kills anything. Well, again, we didn't try the support with the owl on him, but I don't think he could anyway. But a thick skin support, 190 health. Bear trap into combi stick throw anywhere on his body into one wrist blades, instant give someone in 2 seconds. Now, not the perfect game scenario, but even just in theory, if you think about it, like if you throw bear traps around, or if you net somebody into a wall or to the floor, and then as you're running to them, you switch to your combi stick, and before they get out of the trap or the net, you throw the combi stick and you hit them once, they're done before anybody can react. And it's literally done over. You quit claiming you're gone. You'll probably take some bullet hits, but you'll take less bullet hits than you try to run in and combi stick somebody down. Because ultimately they're like, oh, he's on me. But whereas if you just do that quick trap and go, that's like 5 seconds. He's on me, you're already dead as you're saying it. So ultimately the combi stick throw right now, with downrange equipped, you can get anybody in the game. As long as you can land your combi stick throw, you're gonna gimp them immediately. It's done, it's over, no questions asked, GG easy. And that's what you kind of need for the predator, because you can't stay in fights long enough, and especially if you can get that one quick gimp early on somebody, it just makes the rest of the 3 fall over easily. Because you can just repeat that process on people. You don't even have to use the bear traps. You can use the nets. And hell, even if you don't even go for the net plays, on everybody but the support, one melee swing with the combi stick into the throw, you're gimping someone dead instantly. So that's even not even hitting the head. Or if you get the 2 hit and they run away and then you throw the combi stick after them. You know, there's a lot of different factors that you can do with that combi stick that just makes it surpass the level above everybody else. Now, I have a feeling something's going to get fixed or something's going to get nerfed in regards to that. So we will re-see this when time goes. And just see, you know, if they fix it, they don't fix it. If not, predators, have fun with your combi sticks. But ultimately, down the line, we'll just have to see what they do to fix the damage. But stacking all 3 together doesn't do anything. It just takes the precedence of downrange if you stack Berserk, Fearless, and downrange. So ultimately, I'll probably be running the Hunter with downrange, so that way I just have the mobility. That way I can jump from tree to tree, pelt them real quick from far range, and then I'll be instantly able to kill them. Because ultimately, because most people won't be at full health all the time, so it's gonna, you're pretty much almost guaranteed to insta-give somebody. If you just run up on them immediately, stealth, and they don't see you coming because you come from behind, one melee combi stick to their back, they're done. GG. So, but overall, I hope that kind of helps some of the basic predators, you know, kind of understand what damage they're actually doing to people. And then on top of that, for you fire team members, kind of give you a little bit of more of an understanding, hey, where is the best spot to spawn? So that way you're not having to run a million miles across the map to figure out where you need to go. But other than that, my name is Marth. Sorry for the elongated video. Again, both these documents will be in the description below. I love you guys. Be safe. Stay frosty.